Greetings, one and all. This is Lloyd Brown alongside the legend that is Mr. Michael Gordon, and we're talking about his long life journey in music. And we've reached up to the point now where, remind me again. We reached up to the point.
Solo.
Right, it's the solo career, and also the demand that the Investigators' greatest hits basically had, and you deciding to form your own label and sort out your publishing, etc., 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 etc. Right? So you done all of that. So after that, you decided to basically to produce some albums of your own. And I think the first album that you basically done was called Changing Circles. And I just want to basically play a track from that, which was co-produced. It was co-produced with Bubblers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I produced it really, but Bubblers did.
Bubblers
the instrumentation,
right? He done the instrumentation. So let's just hear a bit of "Don't Cry for Me."
Music.
That's not on it. That's not on it.
Where are you now? Don't cry for me. My love, she's waiting somewhere. She had to leave. That's what she told me. Not for so your fleeting train. Touch me now. Come and hold me now.
I forgot about it.
I haven't.
But I can't stop this crying. Take me now to a higher ground. I love and hate you.
I love and hate you.
Girl, you look so confused. Oh, I don't want you to be, but I can't live without you. Crazy
Right. Wow. I'm gonna go into anorak mode here right about now, okay? So I'm gonna run this by you, right? Okay. When I hear that song, I hear the chord progression of it's a Blackstreet tune.
Okay.
Oh baby, don't leave me,
Right.
girl.
I got the album.
Right.
Right.
That's the chord progression.
Right.
But the melody sounds like "We'll Be Forever Loving Ja" by Bob Marley.
It is.
Right. But you done a clever thing there. You done a very clever thing, and you basically you basically changed the chord progression with the same notation.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you. I'll give that to you.
You're too astute. You're just too damn sharp.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs from your solo efforts, and you know, Changing Circles was one of quite a few albums that you had more or less produced.
Right.
And I mean, there's been quite a few, and I mean, I've had the distinct pleasure in working with you on one of your albums, which was Poems and Rhymes.
Yes.
Which the famous.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you for your contribution.
No, thank you, man.
It was phenomenal.
And one of the tunes you done on that album, which has a long running theme, because I utilized the rhythm track, as you well know.
Same.
Right? You done a tune called Magnet to Steel.
Magnet to Steel, yeah.
Beautiful.
Great song.
And
Mr. Pete Honeygill, we borrowed his guitar skills on that.
Definitely.
Multi-talented Mr. Pete Honeygill.
Yeah, you know, and you know, working on that album gave me a deeper insight as to your skills and your talent.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just in terms of when you say, well, you know, I had the bass line and I gave the bass line to such and such
right.
to basically do. as a producer, I'm not used to that at all. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I wasn't used to that at all. But obviously with your pedigree, you knew exactly what you wanted to hear, and you know you don't read music, but you translate music in the way you translate music.
Right.
So it was interesting to work on you on that level, and then when I hear the results of the music, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Now I know what you're basically.
Well, you came to that after Bubblers, because the first time I met Bubblers,
Yeah.
Bubblers came, because I want you to hold a thought of, you know, in terms of what you're talking about. First time I met Bubblers, he came to mix a tune for me, my first solo single.
Right.
Yeah, which was a cover version, Bobby Caldwell's. I guess you wondered where you've been, right?
Boom, chill.
So that rhythm track was laid alongside 5 tunes. That was the last session that the Investigators had before the first split.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And that rhythm just always stuck in my head. Mm-hmm. So when I decided to start my own label, Investigators, the Greatest Six came out, was doing its thing, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Then continued my solo project. I remember that session.
Right.
I started to find that tape. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm going to make that be my first solo single on my label.
Right.
Because it's one of my all-time favorite songs. It's an amazing song.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even not so long ago, Bubblers was amazed that it was a Caucasian brother that sang it. He didn't know. He thought it was, and Bobby is an old man now.
Yeah.
He didn't realize that it was a black brother that sang that. And when he said, is a white man sing that? I said, well, it's a Caucasian man. Yeah. I never know that. I said, Bubblers, I can educate you. Right? So anyway, that's the first time I met Bubblers. But even then, he didn't realize.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I remember that session, and I thought, I want that particular track. Mm-hmm. So I went down to Mark Lozardi. What's the studio called again?
What studio is it?
Soon come to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got and voiced that tune.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, with Linda Lewis, because he was an engineer down there, right? As well as Mark. When Mark wasn't around, it was Linda. Mm-hmm. But Linda obviously had a more feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then something happened and he had to go on tour or something. Mm. And I needed this tune mixed. I go, well, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't really know a lot of people. Mm. Do you know what I mean? Because I was kind of like really sort of like to myself and was working with Fashion Room.
Yeah.
What am I going to get to mix this tune? So he recommended Bubblers. I'd never met Bubblers before.
Same.
Oh, okay. So where's it? So yeah, Bubblers is called Rough Cut Band, and didn't know anything about Rough Cut.
Oh, okay.
But he just recommended on the level that, but he will mix this tune for you, like I would mix this tune.
Same.
Word? Because obviously I was down with Linda, right? Mm-hmm. So he gave me his number, rang Bubblers up, blah. So yeah, gave me a price and he'll come down and mix this tune for me. Because obviously he worked in the studio before, he knew his thing anyway. Mm-hmm. So he came down in the morning. But I could eat. Bubblers must have gone for about 10 baps that morning. I fed him. And he mixed that tune for me.
Yeah.
And that was my first solo tune in terms of on my label.
And when did that come out?
Oh gosh, I think that would have been about, you keep doing this to me. Maybe 93, 94? No, it would have been later than that probably. Mm. I'm not even sure, Lloyd.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure when that came out.
Okay.
But yeah, so where were we in terms of the question?
God, I forget now.
What led us to that?
Oh gosh. Okay, so basically you had, right, so Changing Circles.
Right.
Changing Circles was one of many albums that you basically produced, and I worked on you with poems and rhymes.
Right.
Right. And knowing and just realizing how you basically work.
Right. So the point was trying to make, yes, that's what you come, thank you. So when you were saying to me in terms of how I would relay music to you.
Yeah.
And you've never seen it done that way, and I don't read, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Bubblers went through the same transition. So when I first went to Bubblers,
right, and
I was trying to explain to him, because he could read music,
yeah,
he was like, nah. And I'm saying, yeah. And he was like, nah, but so I'm saying, okay, so it got down to where, okay, the keyboards, because remember, Yeah, because the whole thing was set up in your room. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
guy on the keyboards.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I give him the note them.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, but it was with some trepidation, if you like.
Yeah,
Want of
yeah.
a better word. Because he's still not sure where we're going. Because, you know what I mean? Because it was almost like, I'm not putting Bubblers down, but it was almost like a superior thing going on there.
Yeah.
I'm battling with,
Yeah.
I'm down there, so you up there, so and like, he's a man, people who know music.
Him have the mechanics, you have the vibe.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And once I got the thing out, when I first went, so I made him mix that tune for me, then I hooked back up with him and started to, because I learned about Rough Cut and him and I realized he was working with Aswad then and he was like, a musician programmer.
Yeah.
So he was the first man I buck up with like that. So we got into that, and then after a little while, he was like, done a couple of tunes, and he was like, I get it. I get where you're coming from, because he will even confirm. I can't remember which tune I done with him, and he looked at me and he goes, how did you do that? And it's the second time somebody said that to me.
Yeah.
'Cause remember I told you, Drummy said that to me.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought that I read music, and I don't. And when I did this couple of songs with Bubblers, and he goes, how'd you do that? I goes, do what? He goes, how do you plan that in your head like that, and you don't read music? I goes, it's a sixth sense. It's God. Don't ask me about no notes. If you're going to tell me about B flat and E sharp, you're sorry now.
Yeah.
And then after that, we were cool. Because now, when I go to him, I said, Bubblers, I got this tune. Yeah. We arrange a prior whatever, because them days you're paying for studio time, it's not like now.
Yeah.
The whole thing changed up now, weird.
Yeah.
And you're in control of the session. Yeah, you're my programmer, blah, blah, blah. You're not producing me, I'm producing it. And this is what I want. It was like, but it was like, you know what? Leave the man, make the man do the thing.
Yeah.
And then later on down the years, I actually produced
Journey album, ladies and gentlemen.
Journey album.
The Journey album, which was basically
solely by myself.
solely by Michael Gordon
But
and
programmed
by Bubblers. Yeah. Nice album.
And anybody I work with, I give them full credit.
Signed copy. See there? Signed copy, bless.
Now this album
Yeah.
was I think it's my third solo album on my label.
Right.
And this is where everything was solidified.
Right.
Yeah, everything. So there were stages, there's stages like the band and Woman Energy Loving, so on and so forth. But this.
Yeah. So how many solo albums did you make? Have you made?
I haven't done many, but ask the question.
Yeah. How many solo albums? Okay. How many solo albums have you made up to this point?
Good question, because not many. I've just made quite a few songs. Feelings of Love, Changing Circles,
Poems and Rhymes. Journey.
Roots Lovers, and my last album, which was Reflections. I've only done six albums.
Okay.
Unlike the veteran Mr. Lloyd Brown.
No. But
You're on number what?
2021.
I don't know where you got the time. I don't know where you get the time. Yeah, but I have to applaud you.
But I mean, for what you've done,
Same.
I think it's because that you've put out a lot of singles as well.
Yeah.
Most
definitely.
It's because I measure albums by the amount of tracks, basically.
Right. Okay.
As opposed to a contextual collective of tracks.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, so album wise, you've done a whole heap.
When I did the album with Bubblers, it was that's when we were on an understanding.
Yeah.
Mike can control the thing.
Yeah.
You know what he wants.
Yeah.
So the only other track that I didn't produce on there was cover version of
Change Is Gonna Come.
Change Is Gonna Come.
Okay.
Which was produced by Patrick Donegan.
Yeah, from Progressive.
Yeah, and then he did a remix to it.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. Loved it. I thought, whoa, just turn the thing around. I said I wanted it on this album. But all the other 13 tracks I produced, Bubba's programmed it.
Okay.
And that was a serious eureka moment for me. Even to the point that listening back to some of the tracks, they were superfluous.
See.
Some of the tracks, and that's all a learning curve, because you can look at yourself, and it's like you're picturing somebody else, and say to yourself and keeping it real, I think, you know what? As it stands now, yeah, there's certain things I wouldn't have done because less is more.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, less is more, and it's easy to crowd when you're in that vibe sometimes, and you're hearing. And I think what for me, the pivotal point for me, because I wasn't a musician per se, so I would hear things and want it on it. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to the stripped back vibe.
Okay.
Right? And there are a couple of tracks on there that I've got to keep it real to myself. I think, you know what? There's too much going on.
Loud that.
There's too much going on.
Yeah.
Even though it works, but there's certain things that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just basically looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And that's great. It's almost like saying to yourself, you know what? How do you know you can sing? And that's the way I worked it out. When I drop a bomb note, I know about it. Because I'm thinking, that was crap, Mike. But I think if you can't sing, and when you drop a bomb note, you don't know that you drop a bomb note.
Well, for the fact
that's the only way I can look at it.
Well, for the fact that the albums are on road is that you are satisfied with what you're basically doing.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna close off this chapter, and we're gonna kind of round it off as to where you are at now and your take on what's going on now and the future. Absolutely. So with that, we're gone. Later.
Peace.